I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Montara Water and Sanitary District Board of Directors. It's June 3rd, 2021. It is 7:36 p.m. And can I ask for a roll call, please?
Okay. Director Boyd,
Here.
Director Decker,
Here.
Director Harvey,
Here.
Director Lohman,
Here.
Director Slater Carter.
Present.
All right, thank you, Tracy. Let's see, President's statement. Well, it's that time of year again where all the news is all about the drought and other things, but for us, the drought is something we're always mindful of. And as always, we just want to say thank you for being such a conserving community, such a water-wise community. It's great to work in a place where people are so mindful, and our conservation has over the years shown to be very effective. We're in pretty decent shape, but conservation is one of those things that we can practice all the time, and it really helps. So let's keep doing that. And let's move on now to, do we have any oral comments for items that are not on the agenda?
I would like to make a comment.
Okay, Catherine, go ahead.
There has been a discussion on Nextdoor for the last week or so about having a moratorium on new water connections. And the discussion has gotten to, several citizens have asked if Montara Water and Sanitary District could have, particularly the water district, could have a moratorium on new connections. I told the Nextdoor crowd today that I have asked to have it on our next agenda. So we're not going to be discussing it here at this meeting on June 3rd, but on June 17th, we will be discussing it. And frankly, I'd like to see it under just under the attorney's report, but it is up to the discretion of the chair. And so we'll leave it at that. But I think it's a timely topic. Some of us lived through having the moratorium called and the consequences. But I would like to hear mostly from our attorney on who can call a moratorium, under what circumstances, what the liabilities for various agencies are. Just a good all-round discussion to inform the community, because so many people.
Recording in progress.
Oh, good. This is being recorded. So many people don't know or didn't pay much attention when the moratorium was called. So I think it's important that this district have that discussion.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Let me just add for context for anyone who hasn't been tracking that, the board has not discussed a possible moratorium at all. But when
you are correct.
When questions are raised in the community, it's really good if we share what we know about the things that can happen and the kinds of things that go into that, so that there's a shared understanding of kind of the levers that are there to operate. But there's been no discussion and no expression of intent on the part of the board yet to even bring it up as a matter for the board. So what I understand Catherine asking for is an information item, mostly from our attorney, about how do such things work.
Exactly.
So the community can have that information and be better informed. So as the community wants to discuss it, they operate from a position of being informed. Okay, do we have any other comments for items that are not on the agenda? Ned, I see that you're here. Did you have something that you wanted to comment on?
Yeah, I wanted to use that 3-minute period of time to make a comment.
Is it for something that's on the agenda or something that's not on the agenda?
Something that's not on the agenda that I know of.
Oh, okay. So please, love to
Okay.
hear your comments.
Okay. I'm Ned Brasher, owner of vacant land in Montara. The county divided my project into 2 building permit phases because I'm not acting as a developer, but only as a seller of land. The permit being reviewed by the district is phase 1, to be completed by me, the seller, to grade and pave private roads and install underground utilities and water pipes from a well to be shared by 4 vacant parcels. Phase 2 is for 1 parcel buyer to build a house with a septic system and private water for domestic and fire protection purposes. The water system will be private because the parcel is more than 250 feet distance from district mains. Your attorney, David Stryker's email stating this was presented by me to Clemens and Tanya on July 31st, 2020. Nevertheless, Clemens continued to tell county planning and me that the property fronted a fire protection main. He and Tanya would not discuss the project until I paid fees for a fire protection application and an inspection. I paid both fees by April 20th. Afterwards, no one from the district communicated with me. A friend asked board member Rick Lohman to contact me. Rick told me that Clemens told him on May 14th that the district couldn't provide the fire protection services. The septic system is not part of this phase 1 building permit. It will be the responsibility of the buyer of the 2-acre parcel. The district's septic permit will be applied for as part of a new separate phase 2 building permit by the purchaser of the parcel. The parcel is 770 feet from Portola 1 well. Balance Hydrologics concluded that Portola number 1 and number 4 further away, quote, clearly has a low vulnerability to septic field contamination, unquote, as it is 770 feet from Portola number 1, which is beyond the 600-foot well capture zone. And so I'm asking the board to please support approval of the permit expeditiously. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ned. It might be helpful. It sounds like you might have read from a prepared statement. If you're
Yes.
willing to share that, then that would help us with our minutes.
Yes, I could send you exactly what I said.
Terrific. Thank you.
Send it to Tracy.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, so I know Tanya is here. Tanya, was there any part of that you feel there's something helpful to offer in response?
Scott, when Tanya's finished, I would request that we put it on as an agenda item, so we can give it a more fulsome discussion and hearing.
I'm going to suggest that should that be needed, then we do that at the next meeting so we have a properly prepared staff report.
Yes.
We're also at a bit of a disadvantage because of circumstances beyond his control. Clemens isn't with us at the meeting just yet.
We, Mr. President, members of the board, we plan to send a letter to Mr. Brasher this week. I don't think there's any reason to have it on the agenda. Of course, it is at the pleasure of the board, but I think we will conclude our investigation and research on this subject. It's very complex and very difficult to understand without Dave Shuker being here, because this can been going on since 2007. So I think we are about to wrap up our research and we'll respond to Mr. Brasher shortly.
I think it would be helpful if we plan on hearing from staff at the next meeting as a follow-up on where we stand with this.
Okay.
Let's just have it as a report then.
Yep.
Scott, you blanked off for me. So
okay,
you're saying that the board will be informed of what's going on this?
That's my ask. Yeah, that we get an update on what transpires, so that at the next meeting, if there are any open issues, we can weigh in at that time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ned, thank you for bringing that. We're always happy to have people attend the meetings. As you can tell, we're often kind of lonely here. So it's well, I appreciate you sharing your concerns with us. That's something that we're grateful when people bring them to us, because it gives us a chance to see to it that we consider them fully.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Scott, and I thank you guys for letting it be at the first of the agenda instead of the end.
Oh, well, certainly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, as always, we invite you to stick around. We have a wee bit of stuff to do here tonight. We've got some consent agenda items, which I think are going to go quick, but then we're going to take a look at the draft water and sewer budget and the capital improvement program, which I think is always one of the best presentations of the year. It's the actual meat and potatoes of the district. And it's nice to do that check-in every year.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll leave the meeting. I'm retired, so I'm going to stay that way.
Well, okay, all right. Well, I tried. Thanks for being here. We'll
Thanks,
talk.
Ned.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's then move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull any items for consideration by the board?
Yes, I need to pull the minutes from the last meeting. I need to do a correction.
Okay, we'll pull item 1. Any other items? If it's short, Rick, do you want to chat about it now so we can do them all together?
Yes. I was called by Martha Poyadas of LAFCO that I had used some incorrect terms in our discussion about the East Palo Alto Sanitary District issue. I used the terms like the developer hired the consultants. I conflated a few terms because I was in a rush to just get through the item. The correct statement is that the developers are paying for the consultants. The consultants were hired by LAFCO. So that is a corrector term for that. And the intent of the developers in the city of Palo Alto is to have it investigated to see who pays for how much of the required infrastructure increase that will be required for all those projects.
Okay, so let's, that sounds like a kind of a substantial amendment to the minutes. So could you possibly send a blurb to Tracy and we could include that as an errata rather than try to change the inline? Because what happened in the meeting was what was said, but I think we could annotate it to say we have a correction. Would that work for you?
I can do that.
Okay, terrific. So if, let's hold off on item 1, we could pick that up at a subsequent meeting. And then if we're okay, can we have a motion for approving items 2 through 10 on the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Go ahead, Rick.
I'm gonna give that to Catherine and Peter. I mean, this is a competition, so
Yeah, it gets a meeting over faster too.
yeah. Tracy, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Aye, aye.
Okay, so thank you. The consent agenda is approved 5-0. We have no old business. I really want to make an old joke here, but let's go to new business. Review and possible action concerning the 2021-2022 draft water and sewer budget and CIP. Now, with Clemens absent, does anyone want to volunteer to lead off on presenting this topic?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay. But when we start, I should start by saying that we are very grateful to Peter Medina, who, as usual, has done a very thorough job. We have had discussions in the Finance Committee with Peter and with Clemens, and we have a few items that have not appeared as high in the budget as this year. as this coming year. Specifically, it regards elections that we have set aside a substantial amount of money for. And it also is in a situation presently that some of the figures are not yet firm. The revised master fee schedule for the sewer is not yet there. So the number of income that we have now in our budget is somewhat a guessing game still, unless we get the completed tax roll for the sewer service. It is also missing the delinquent charge collection. And there is an increase in personnel cost for a job description that includes a senior operator position. This is a new position, and it was made necessary by some of our staff having run out of steps. And Clemens has discussed this in the past. Those items are still open. But nevertheless, we can conclude that we've had a good year so far for the budget 2021. The difference between what we have budgeted and the actual is minimal as we're steering towards the end of the year. So the numbers that we have used for 2021 can also, to a great extent, be used for 21-22 with a few exceptions. The exceptions are typically in the detailed write-up that has the that is an backup to the overall sheet that you have in front of you. I cannot play up the budgeted cash flow for the water.
Here, let me put that on the screen. I think I can do that.
I also have it open.
I'll grab it.
Okay.
Just go through the steps here.
Hello, Clement.
Hello, everyone. My apologies.
It's okay. We're doing okay without you.
Oh, what a surprise. I would not have thought so.
That's a compliment.
Okay, so let me ask everyone, see the budget here?
But you were talking budget revision there because we don't need Clemens.
I do
So
see the agenda.
you see,
Sorry,
these-
where are we at?
We are in a new business review and possible action concerning 2021-2022 draft water and sewer budget and CIP.
let me
Okay.
find the control and I will stop sharing this if I can.
And so we don't have Peter Medina with us right now?
Peter's not here.
No.
That's
Okay. Let me text him.
Let me do a new share and let me pick the right document this time. I apologize. Here we go. My machine is really suffering here, so we'll catch up here in a second. Okay, so now do you see the budget?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
you tell me which page you want me on and I'll get you there.
Okay, we can start with the sewer budgeted cash flow.
Okay.
So this overall sheet shows a few things. It shows, for one thing, that we will be needing a transfer from the sewer reserves, even though from a financial point of view, the operating income is as expected, 9% higher than the year before, or somewhat less. We also see that the professional service category has increased quite substantially because of the legal fees that are involved. That is a major difference with the previous year. The general legal costs were increased by $100,000. That is quite substantial. The election expenses are $70,000. That is also quite substantial. The consulting and accounting fees have risen slightly as compared to the previous year. And general engineering costs have been reduced by $30,000 in the budget for 21-22. Those are the major items that pop up when you compare the 2021 budget with the 21-22 budget. Other than that, we can now see how in the sewage department, we are actually better off than in the water department, because our reserves in the sewer department are higher than they are in the water department. So down the road, when we go to the thinking about rate increases, we should definitely think of a possible rate increase in the years to come in order to make good of the shortfall that we have in water. There is very little to say about the final budget because we are waiting, as I said before, for those final numbers from the completed tax roll. But in basically this budget as it stands is the right budget. For the largest expense in this budget, the CIP, I have to ask for Pippin and for Clemens to give you an explanation.
Thanks, Peter. Really appreciate you taking a stab at presenting the sewer budget. And I apologize for the next hiccup. We're supposed to have Peter Medina here to actually present the budget, but we'll manage fine without him. So first of all, one correction to what Peter said, and that is on the sewer service charges, that is actually now the final number. So we do have the final sewer service charge number. We are confident that we will collect in the next fiscal year. That's almost $3.5 million in sewer service charge income. Just as a brief introduction, so again, the thought was to actually bring the budget up for approval at this meeting. So it is really in a final form. However, we are missing the accompanying documents. What I mean with that is that those are, for example, the $3.479 sewer service charge number is based on a 3% rate increase. This 3% rate increase was approved through a Prop 218 process last year. However, to make that new rate active, we have to actually open up the master fee schedule and plug it in. So that's what's missing here on this end. So that number is final. We also actually have the CIP number, that the proper CIP number plugged in as we would like to see it. On the CIP, I want to say that we've actually didn't spend the full amounts that we anticipated last year. We also didn't spend the full amount this current fiscal year. So that's why we are not so much concerned with the overall projected cash flow. On the bottom, you see that there would be a transfer from sewer reserves needed for almost $900,000. That is,
Let me let Peter in.
Peter is coming in.
Yep.
So that is not so much a concern. Also want to give everyone a heads up. We are potentially running into a situation where we're receiving, or actually our sewer improvement project just started late last month. So we're in the progress of implementing this year's sewer CIP project. So we may hopefully we can conclude it this fiscal year, but if we continue into the next fiscal year, that number will also be slightly elevated, the CIP numbers. So the big driver on the sewer side, really the rate increase, another 3% rate increase. The personnel
Excuse
cost.
me, Clemens, that's
Yes.
not 3%, that's a 9% increase, as I thought.
In personnel.
No, in the sewer charge.
In the sewer charge? Oh,
Yes.
I'm sorry, and we should actually have the
You
well,
want-
first of all, Peter can definitely answer that question, but I think
I thought a 9% increase was approved for 3 years.
I
And
think
you
you're
can
right.
see 1% service charge increase, that indeed that is closer to 9% than it is to 3%.
Yes, I think you're right, Peter. I apologize for that. I think you're right. It was a 9%.
We had
It was
that
2 years of 9% rate increases. that we-
Clemens and Peter, we had that, was it a year and a half ago? We had that big discussion about the need to increase the sewer service charge. As you all remember that discussion.
Yes. So, Peter, welcome to the meeting. Is your audio working?
Yes, it is, and I'm not going to belabor this too much. I sincerely apologize to all the board, as well as Clemens and staff, and as well as anybody watching. For I just completely slipped my mind. No excuses. Just very poor professionalism on my part today. I apologize.
Peter, I just got to say, it's such a beautiful day outside. It's hard to believe it's time for a meeting. So you are no harm, no foul. We're doing fine. Glad to
Thank
have
you. I appreciate that. I got home. I looked at my phone and said, "Oh my goodness, where was my brain at?" I am so sorry.
That's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, no,
This
I'm
is
sure.
Peter, this is what sun does to your brain.
I have a dead giveaway. I mean, the face just says it all. I was at the pool with my family, and time got away from me, and I blew it.
Well, that's excellent. I'm glad if it was going to be for any reason, that sounds like a really good one. So here we are.
Okay. Well, I said I don't want to step over your toes, Clemens, but are you okay if I take over?
Yes, absolutely. Please do.
Okay, and sure, Clemens has kind of set this up already. We're looking at sewer, as we already know, just what the major drivers are. We've had discussions with the finance committee, myself, and then working back with Clemens and staff as well, going through it. As we know, CIP as well as personnel, and then for the sewer side, Sam overall is not, I believe it to be flat. I would call it for the most part flat. But like I said, our expenditures are going up. I don't know if you guys have already talked about this. The odd one that looks weird there is the all other accounts. This is the expectation of $70,000 per fund, so $140,000 in total for the expected the election expenses that are expected to come in the next year. As I said, Cummins can speak more about that, but we're expecting about $70,000 to be spent per fund. So that's the major piece there, as well as the. Oh, sorry, Catherine.
No, when you're talking about election expenses, let's add some detail for the public. It's because we got a letter about the need to forcing us to redistrict, to create districts. And that's going to cost a lot of money. And it has to be paid. We have to pay for it with our ratepayers' money.
When we had started the discussions, Director Decker as well as Jim were talking about they were throwing out these numbers, and I'm just saying no. I mean, we've gone through the election cycle every 2 years or so, and it's not that much money. And they're like, no, this is different. And so I said, we are planning for planning for that. And unfortunately, I said that's going to be, it's coming out of operations. There is really no other way to slice it. So I said, you know, the big thing here, the part where I think we've been coming, we haven't had the CIP expenditures that we had budgeted for fiscal year 21-22 for both sewer and water. So the district does have the cash reserves in operations, more so on the sewer side than the water side. But yeah, that's been the major point of talking this year, is just kind of our cash management. We do have cash. Projects are ongoing, but they are being delayed for one reason or another. But like I said, we are planning for another CIP year for the sewer fund for at least $2 million or so.
And the other thing, Peter, that we have is the lawsuit from Half Moon Bay.
Yes.
Which is going to be it's entirely from the sewer budget. And it's because Half Moon Bay is suing us and Sam, so we have to pay our 20% of Sam, and El Granada and Granada Community Services District. So 2/3 of the coast is seeing a raise in their sewer rates because Half Moon Bay wanted to treat us unfairly.
You can look at it here in terms of the dollar amount of what this represents in the professional services line item. We're expecting an increase of $122,000, and the majority of it is legal fees. You can see that later on in the detail sheets what the exact legal fee increase represents. But yes, yeah, we are anticipating increased legal fees for the next fiscal year. Hopefully we're wrong, but like I said, we're just not seeing that. We're not expecting that. So yes, so I mean that I think these two sheets, as we've talked about before, and I know Cummins has spoken about this, this is a snapshot of capturing everything that is going out the door. As we know, a couple items on this sheet are balance sheet items, but economically speaking, they are dollars going out. And it's a more a matter of GAAP accounting to where we capitalize these costs at fiscal year end. But when you look at it, these are real dollars going out the door for both loan principal as well as our CIP program. So I said those are the major drivers. Personnel, of course, with our two full-time staff, but Clemens time being captured on there. And then yeah, Sam is going to be the large for both collections and O&M. But as you see, overall, a 1.3% increase. You know, we've seen larger, but he said this is the major piece. Okay, so Clemens, if you would, can we move on to water, or would there be any questions from the board on the sewer side?
Yeah, there's a question. I have a few questions on the sewer side.
Yes.
To begin with, the detailed sheet that backs up this overview sheet says the decrease from 2019 to 2020 in the column, in the second to last column. That should read 20 to 21 on the first two pages instead of 1920.
Ah, okay. Okay.
You have not made that same mistake in the water. The water is fine. It's just somebody oversaw the heading, and that should probably represent the 2021 numbers, not the 1920 numbers.
Yep, that's ancient history right now. Thank you, Director Necker.
Then the other thing is, I've looked at the restricted and unrestricted cash assets sheet
Yes.
about the reserves in the various accounts and the shortfalls in the various targets that we had set for ourselves in reserves. And my question is, would it be appropriate when we have already reached the target to put the overage that we have in the LAIF fund instead of leaving it at Wells Fargo?
So, Dr. Decker, you brought up a good point, and it's something that we've had discussions about in the past. The way it's set up now is that LAIF is really kind of the house of our sewer reserves. And our water reserves, they aren't as robust. They are growing now with the it's escaping me, but the water. Nah, I apologize. The water quality. Clemens, help
Water
me out here.
system reliability
Water system
charge.
reliability charge. That will grow. So it's actually a discussion point that I brought up with Clemens, and that we're going to bring back to the board, because what I would like to do is look into setting up. So we can only have one LAIF account. So putting it in there, it's a little bit more accounting, but it's doable. But maybe setting up a CAMP account. CAMP stands for California Association of the MP. Man, it's a program similar to LAIF. They aren't as I guess popular as LAIF, but they do have a number of assets under portfolio. So maybe setting up that account, because really, to answer your question, I agree with you 100%. I've constantly brought up the fact of cash management. Catherine's brought it up in the past as well, as far as there really shouldn't be a time where we have multiple millions of dollars in our operating account. We should, we all know rates are low right now, but hey, we can probably earn something on that chunk of money. But yes, to answer your question directly, yes, we should think about moving it. I don't know if the answer is LAIF. Like I said, I would like to work with staff to look into an account with CAMP. But reality speaking, sewers one story, because yes, we should move some money from there, but it's water. What I would like to do, and they said I don't want to speak out of turn, so Clemens, stop me if this is too early, but with the water reliability charge, I would like to move that money. It's supposed to be for CIP projects, to have kind of a free flowing operations funds will cover the cost, but we'll know what was spent for CIP, and then move that money into operations to replenish those funds on a regular basis. But it's just really just more for the public to kind of see that we are holding that money separate, and we're spending it for the ongoing capital needs of the district. That's something that we're gonna propose here relatively soon. Like I said, I want to look into CAMP to find out what the requirements are, what the minimum is, and if we can have a CAMP and a LAIF. I'm pretty sure that answer is yes. But it's just something that, like I said, worst comes to worst, yes, we can use LAIF. But right now it seems pretty clean. That's been the way it is for the last 7 years of having the sewer reserves in LAIF. Water's never really had any, but I can see it moving that way if we have another year where CIP projects don't move forward at the pace that we think they're going to. So cash will begin to accumulate.
Okay, so let's talk about it some more in a finance committee meeting, or whatever
Yes.
you.
No, I believe a finance committee meeting is probably the best place to bring it up first, and really kind of have that free flowing conversation as far as because it's A, where do you want to house the money, but really it's B, and it's really more on B, it's just cash management, looking at what we want to have as a minimum balance in the bank, and then with the excess, putting it in something that will make some money for us. And if we can have some interest
Safely.
income,
Money
yes,
for safely.
that's always, safeguarding of assets. That's priority number one, and that always will be the case. That's
We are not Orange County.
No, but I see, and that's the odd occurrence for me, really. California code dictates that, safeguard of assets is number one. That's always been the case. So, we just want to be able to, within there, like I said, camp and life, what we call, safety in numbers. There are so many agencies that are within those two programs that we should be okay. But, it would be nice to have interest income on the water fund. Yeah, that's really it. Okay.
Thank you.
So yes, Director Decker.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay.
I have one question, and you can while we're going on about something, you can do your magic with your keyboard and get us the answer. I was asked what percentage of our budget our legal bills are. And I don't want specifics because I believe that's something we can't disclose given the two lawsuits we're in. But one being redistricting, which is a lawsuit for the public. But I was asked on Nextdoor, and I would like to be able to respond legally. So I think just an overall percentage.
Okay. I would like
And,
to.
and possibly for water and for sewer, because
Correct.
I am going to add about the two lawsuits.
For
I think
Unless
compare,
Christine
The
yells
way
at me.
the way the question was framed, as far as I see, was what is the percentage of the legal bills for Montara Water and Sanitary District? So it would be both budgets added together, as
Yes.
that would be the 100%, and the total legal cost would be then the percent. I think we can take this offline and send you that number
That would be good.
rather quickly.
Other than Kimberly, who's been here before, I don't see anyone else from the public at large. So, but I will be posting this to Nextdoor.
Well, there'll be plenty of people watching it on PCT. So,
Oh, well, that's true.
all right.
So-
I wanted to jump back real quickly. Some of the setup that we didn't do, we kind of skipped over it a little bit, but I just wanted to mention that this bit in particular, Clemens wanted to get this out in front of us so that we could see some of the things that were coming, and this will come back, and we hope to bring it back for approval at our next meeting on the 17th.
Yes, thank you, Scott. So we have actually the public hearings scheduled for the 17th. So we plan to open the master fee schedule. We plan to set the sewer service charges, the tax roll, essentially what we collect through the tax roll. All of that is set for the June 17 meeting. The reason why we bring the budget up here at this meeting is because Peter is not going to be available on the 17th. He's here tonight. We wanted to give the board a good opportunity to ask all questions that can be asked before we bring this budget back up once more for final approval. So that's really the reason why we're looking at this tonight.
So, Peter, did we have more to go into? I want to also mention that we've got our water and sewer engineers here to talk about the capital improvement sections.
I would have one more point, and it has to do with the water fund. As I don't know if Clemens has already brought it up, but it has to do with the staffing here.
We have not talked water budget so far, so we can.
Okay.
If you want to take it away.
Okay. We'll go quickly because yes, I agree. As I talked about, starting off with, we know what the major driver is. We've made a concerted effort to improve our infrastructure, so to allow them their time as opposed to hearing me drone on and on. I agree. So the big piece here, water sales. We are more or less budgeting them flat. Their indication is that we're expecting use to go way down with the upcoming dry season and the fact that we're in a drought. So we are budgeting flat. There is no rate increase as well. So we may see a number that's far below here, but like I said, we decided to go flat for this year. The big change here that I wanted to go over was in personnel. And really what's going on here is we have an operator that is at step 10 that has been with the district, that would in essence represent over 10 years, that is now at the top of the scale for a water operator. What is being done now, and it's worked out pretty well with the numbers and rates, is that a new position created called the lead operator is going to go between the operator and the supervisor. So Clemens, if you go down to page, I believe it to be page 8.
Who's sharing screen?
I've got it. I'll get you there. Hang
Okay,
on.
thanks. Yes, and thank you. That is another
no,
reason why we bring this
probably
back on
10.
the 17th. We want to bring this properly to the board, creation of a
Couple
new
more, Scott.
position.
2 more down.
of
Two more
senior
down?
operator.
2 more.
Right.
Okay, so what you'll see here is that the lead operator position, so 3 down from the top, this is a new position that is expected to be filled at step 1 as of 1/1/2022. And like I said, it's for one of our operators that is already at step 10. There was nowhere for him to go, so he would only be receiving COLA, 3.8% COLA. I didn't mention that yet, but yes. So we're applying a 3.8% COLA. As always, a 2.5% jump between steps, and that's how our current the overall numbers, which is for the next sheet. Down you'll see, but really what I want to highlight here is that it actually worked out pretty well, because there was quite a substantial gap between step 10 of water system operator and step 1 of superintendent. This new position really does smooth out. Sorry, I think I get some feedback. It does smooth out the rate through another position through a 10-step cycle. So that's really the big part of it here. And so that part has been brought in. If you go down to page 11, you'll see here this is kind of the master calculation that kind of gets us a bit of a sanity test when we start actually going through and seeing what we expect for the year. We have the new position being a lead operator. So you'll see lead operator and water operator. We're splitting those because, like I said, it will be an increase, but it's not until midway through the fiscal year. That's the big part that I wanted to go over. Any questions? Director Decker, do you have a question? You were
Yes,
on mute.
I'm sorry, I was muted and now I'm not. What do you think about the performance of the water in general? I noticed that we have the water reliability charge in place now, but on the other hand, water is always causing a shortfall, having to be filled in by the sewage department.
So Peter, it wasn't always the case. We've seen this recently. However, I think you already touched on this earlier, that we don't have a rate increase built in. We have not increased the water rates since our last Prop 218. That's now 7 years ago, no, 6 years ago, Peter?
Well, the last time we had the initial rate Prop 218 that went for 7 years. We went through a water rate study, and I think you're right, Clem. I think that is I'm thinking of sewer. Yes, I think you're right that we
6
have
years
not
ago.
had. Yes,
That's right.
yes,
So of course
been a
there's
number
the
of years.
implementation. There's the implementation of the water system reliability charge, which was a significant step to, essentially introduce a fee specifically for the infrastructure portion of the budget. However, the actual water rates have not been increased in quite some time now. So this is at least the third year where we don't see a actual water rate increase, and since quite some time we haven't gone through a Prop 218 process on the water side. What we also see is, of course, a drought scenario, and we have right now the water numbers are budgeted flat, and I think we have some good assumptions that we will not see an increase in water usage this year, that's for sure. We probably can anticipate a decrease in water usage. And with that, I think, Peter, the advantage is on the water side, we don't necessarily have to wait for a fiscal end or beginning of a fiscal year to initiate a rate increase. So we can, I think the rate to increase discussion is something that could be initiated now. We could start looking at the performance some months in and then make a decision on a rate increase if the need arises.
Just like in the past, we have this water rate study done again, whereby we have several alternatives laid in front of us. But I do want to make sure that for the future, we have enough money coming in to make ends meet in the water department.
Yes, and I appreciate that concern very much. Staff really thought that the implementation of the water system reliability charge, that was ultimately, I think that we can call that some sort of a rate shock to the community that happened last year with some very significant rate cost increases to both water and sewer. So our decision was to not ask the board at this time for a rate increase. But I think the discussion is very needed, particularly now that we're walking into a drought situation.
Yes.
Catherine, you're on mute.
See my lips moving and you can't hear me. That was useful. We need to, for the public that's watching this and just for generally memory refreshing, the system reliability charge was simply for infrastructure, and we have other costs which we have to meet. Labor is one, but there's also all these other costs: fuel, electricity, insurance. There's so many specific costs that have to be met, and the way our budget has been structured has been to pay for most of it through rates as opposed to our meter charge. So I think we need to be sure to explain to people about how the other operations costs have been going up and why.
Yes. So I think, Peter, if I'm not quite sure what you see the right process here. I think, for us, really, it was important to have this discussion with the full board, with the budget approval. So we're really doing this right now. It may be a future agenda item that we ask the board for the authorization of a rate study, for example, so that this is being brought up.
It would be the right step.
Yes, so that's what I'm thinking about. Maybe we ask get an agenda item at a future board meeting where we ask the board to consider a rate study, so bring this discussion up once more and then make a decision. Peter.
Right.
Yes. No, you just got to, both Director Decker and Director Slater Carter, both really good points. It's something that, yes, we have talked about. More to Catherine's point, I think, yes, for the next rate study, before we move forward, can you, Director Boyd, can you bring us back to page 2? I want to go look at operations, that portion of, so I guess it's page 3 here, actually.
This one?
No, one page up. Okay, so this is important here because this speaks to Catherine's point here as far as our operations. $2.2 million of expected revenue and basically $2 million of expected expenditures. So, I mean, we are covering operations, but we are not really discussing the other piece of it is long-term debt. The biggest part of it of GO bonds, we are capturing through the roll, but you're absolutely correct. You said operational costs are going up, and our rate structure, if we decide to talk about that meter charge, it's okay. Well, maybe we have to fluctuate it too early. It's okay. Well, we have to have a flat amount. I'm not going to get too far into that part, but I think it's something that we absolutely, as a group, should discuss and way to combat rising operational costs going forward. Because if it's all dependent on usage, we're going to be sorely disappointed. And the water system reliability charge is for capital improvement, and we may do great there, but if we're not going to keep up with operations, we're going to have a problem.
So if I hear that as a direction to consider an agenda item for a potential rate study, I think that's what I'm hopefully hearing board support for that.
You have my support, Clemens.
And mine.
Okay. Okay. So I think that is usually one of the bigger decisions during the budget time, essentially to look at this water sales number. And I think we have some really good experience actually estimating, what we're taking in. I think if we would be taking this approach right now, leaving it flat is a minimum. I mean, going into a severe drought like such, we probably anticipate in reality a little less income than the $1.897 million, but we never know.
Yes, I have nothing further to add, Clemens.
Okay. Peter, did you have any other questions, direct questions about the water budget?
No.
Maybe we start talking to our engineers about the planned capital improvement programs for the next fiscal year. And we started with sewer earlier. Maybe we start with sewer there as well. We have Pippin here tonight. Pippin, maybe you can, or first, I think, Scott, if you can scroll to the summary page of the sewer, the green CIP page. And Pippin, if I can, okay, so that's the cash flow. I think we have at page 12 it is.
Page 11.
Yeah, I said 12.
Right?
Yes, there it is.
Okay, so Pippin, maybe you can just tell us the highlights of next year, which I see is essentially there's two big numbers in the next year's CIP.
Yes, thank you, Clemens, and the board. Thank you for time to talk on this tonight. As Peter laid out, this is an important time where we look at these factors, those needs that has past goals, future goals, and compares to what the cash flow looks like. So on these summary sheets, this looks like it does as for several years now. We carry forward a number of categories that are just generally the budgeting buckets we look at for the different types of needs in the district. The pump stations really mechanical operations for parts that wear out is in category 1. Sometimes those items are pass-through costs through SAM. SAM maintains the pump stations and repairs items. It may come from that budget. The district has a big effort here to investigate and further find ways to reduce rain inflow and infiltration from groundwater. That includes efforts with both the district mains and with private laterals and televising. So that's what that category is there for. Soil gets its own category because this increased soil movement out there and the individual grinder pumps tend to be a higher maintenance item. The biggest item we come down to for the CIP, 633,000 projected. That's actually down a little bit from this last year because we're hoping to do more of the trunk sewer work, which is there's Cabrillo Highway Express Sewer at $1 million. So the medium and high priority sewers under the 100,000. That's the annual project the district carries forward where we try to seal up neighborhood sewers and reduce hotspot problems for SAM. And some of the areas that we plan to do more work is to continue up work in the Cedar Street area where we're working now around Dayhart Pump Station. That's kind of a geographically a bowl where a lot of groundwater tends to try to soak into the sewer system, and we're trying to seal that up. We also plan to do some pump station renovations as well. The spot repair program is another miscellaneous item just for things as they are needed. But the big one here, the $1 million, this is a carry-on from a few years ago. We did what some people called the big dig. We had the big boring and jacking project that put a new sewer pipe under Highway 1. That carries all the sewage from the north part of Montara, which comes down the highway and crosses under the highway there at the district office. So to complete that renovation, part of what's the goal there is that the highway's been widened slightly. And so the sewer is in the traveled way. So we're hoping to, we've been working with Caltrans to try to get a permit to move that sewer over. And that's been a little frustrating. They've approved the project twice in the past. And once the district had to postpone the project for budget concerns and timing before. And so we applied this season. And even though Caltrans had previously approved it, they flat out rejected it and came up with 35 things we needed to do to meet their changing criteria. So we're working through that permit process with Caltrans and hope to request bids later this summer. So that's the highlight of our capital. And as Clemens also mentioned, the current project got started a little bit late, partly from some slow permitting process with the county. Maybe COVID was one of the factors, and some concerns with the lighting district, had some questions. And anyway, we've worked through those. So they're moving along quite well, but some of the payments for last year's project might not actually be made in this fiscal year. It might fall after July 1. So this number may appear a little higher, and in the actual numbers, this 2021 number might be a little less than expected. But those are the highlights. If you have any specific questions, I'll be glad to go into more detail.
I don't see any questions.
I
Catherine?
don't have a question. Could you, just for the public, tell us a little bit more about what's going on at Cedar? And I would love to see some of our MWSD signs put up there. I hadn't seen them.
Yeah, I need to figure. Thank you. I need to figure out where the signs are. Those are supposed to be on site. But just to let everyone know, Pacific Trenchless is the company that received the low bid last time for the 2020-21 CIP project. And the project includes three main work areas, three primary work areas. One is to work out from the Dade Hart pump station along Hart Street and up Cedar Street. That's an area that several years ago, the county improved the storm drains there. So now we're going in to seal up those sewers. And so far, we've been extremely successful replacing and rehabilitating the connections on most of the laterals that are there. That's one of the things, just to remind the public and the board. Some years ago, we looked at various ways to improve our I&I reduction, or improve the tightness, how sealed up the system is. And some communities have gone to a pretty heavy-handed penalty approach, where with laterals, when property sells or you remodel, you must do repairs. And the district does have that requirement for major remodels. If you need to, you want to add on to your house or add a second unit, you will need to make sure your lateral is in good shape. But the economics of chasing down lateral repairs associated with capital projects, in most cases, is significant staff time and consultant time. And if someone doesn't, make a repair or doesn't respond, then you have to hire legal to write a letter. We've looked at all these factors on a number of districts and found that for similar or less money, we can repair these connections with our regular capital project. The way the pipe bursting is working on the sewer, the cost incremental amount per district is only hundreds of dollars per house to make these improvements. So it's working quite well. So that's what's happening. It's fairly messy. We're doing the main pipes plus many of the lateral connections on Cedar Street. But the contractor's friendly, and if you need to get through there or have any questions, please feel free to talk to them or to call me directly.
Thank you. I saw it was Pacific Trenchless, so I figured it was us, but I didn't see where our signs were.
They owe us the signs. I will follow up on that.
Thank you.
I saw an MWSD sign when I went walking a couple of days ago.
It's a little bit
So
tricky because there are, I think the contract required 1 or 2 signs, but on that neighborhood, you can approach the project from 4 different directions. So maybe we don't have enough signs for that site. Oh, I didn't finish my explanation. The second major location of work for this past project is going to be on Stetson and Admiral Street. And then there's another piece west of the Taqueria on Virginia Street.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, do we have any other questions or comments for Pippin? Anyone? If not, shall we go on to water?
Yes, thanks, Scott. And we have Tanya. And if I can ask Tanya to present the water CIP. That should be on page 12 now, Scott, at least
Yes. 1 page down.
Thank you, Clemens. I apologize for me going in and out of the picture. I don't know. I still haven't figured out why that's happening. But so that's why I'm stopping the video, because it's just ridiculous. But I'm here. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Thank you, Clemens. The CIP for the water Just a few highlights. I don't have an as exciting of a story as Pippin had delivered. He always outdoes me. That just irks me. I'm kidding. But we will continue the new renewal and replacement program for the distribution system. And that's consistently with the slight increases every year for the 5 years. It's about, a total is about $1 million. And we're slated for 195,000 for next year. The other word of note is the emergency generator replacement program continues with replacing a generator every year. The important big project we're planning is the Pillar Ridge Water Treatment Plant rehabilitation. And that is actually very exciting. We will be asking the Division of Drinking Water for a waiver of the VOC, which is volatile organic compounds treatment, because the district has not experienced any in the water. And then introducing proper treatment for iron and manganese. So the improvements that we will be proposing, and they will be in front of the board next fiscal year for approval, will improve the safety and ease of operation for staff, accessibility, and ease in hopefully very much efficiency of the whole system. So in addition, we are planning to improve the fire flow capacity at the Pillar Ridge. So that was long planned, and now it's time to do it. That's the project that will probably go for 2 fiscal years. The other parts of this CIP is the new customer CIP that is funded by the water connection charges, and that includes the water main upgrade program and additional generator upgrade program. So that's about $600,000 of the CIP next fiscal year proposed. This part of the program is based on availability of funds. Basically, if there are new customers coming in and we have the funding, we do it. If not, we'll hold off and defer to a later date. The total proposed is about $1.2 million for next year, increasing significantly for the rest of the CIP years to the total of $12 million in 5 years. That's about sums it up, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Tanya.
Okay, not everybody at once.
I think that was, well, I'll just say, I think that was pretty clear. Why do we have to ask for a waiver if we haven't had to treat that? Was that a problem with the water before?
Yeah, there was. Gosh, I'm trying, but sorry. This was under the previous ownership. It really has nothing to do with the ownership, but probably the plume that contained those compounds has gone through, and we're just not seeing it in the raw water, and that's why we're asking for a waiver. The division, that's a process that division requires.
The current method that is applied to essentially extract the potential volatile organic compounds is that's done through an air stripping tower. So we're essentially blowing air into the water that's produced. And that was designed to take the VOCs out. And as Tanya mentioned, we have not seen VOCs. The Pillar Ridge water system hasn't seen VOCs in a very long time. However, there is some iron and manganese in the water. Those are not health concerns, but more aesthetic concerns. and essentially operational concerns. So what we're looking for is the introduction of the proper treatment. Currently, the VOC, the stripping towers are taking out the iron and manganese, but they're not designed to do it. So it requires a lot of maintenance. And so what SRT is suggesting is essentially removal of one technology and the addition of a new technology that's essentially treating the water properly.
Which will then give us lower operations costs and higher quality water for the district.
That's the idea, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, not seeing any other questions. If not, I'd like to thank Peter and Pippin and Tanya for taking us through this. Thank you, Clemens, for getting it in front of us as a kind of an early run. This is very helpful.
Thank you.
I'm going to stop the sharing when my computer thinks that that's, there we go. Tanya, you're not the only one fighting with Zoom. Okay. All right, with that, let's look at reports.
Hey, Scott, real quick.
Yes.
We got time for just, can I make two quick comments on the legal fees and the lawsuit real quick?
We have director's reports coming up in a moment.
I can do it then if you want.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, let me get back to the agenda so I know what to read from here. All right, the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast side meetings. Do we have anything to report?
We have a special meeting tomorrow for closed session items. Nothing jumps to mind that was outrageous.
Just getting the budgets passed was the big thing.
Right.
What's the nature of the closed session meeting tomorrow?
Labor
Okay.
and legal.
One of the prior employees.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, that might be the shortest SAM report we've ever had. Mid-Coast Community Meeting. Greg is not with us tonight. Anyone care to take a quick stab at recapping anything from Mid-Coast Council?
I know they had, one of the big discussion items was the legal suit. And I know the Mid-Coast Council has issued a letter in response to the lawsuit also, which is online, I'm pretty sure, through the Mid-Coast Council.
No, it is online, and no one from this district participated either live or participated or even viewed on the list of participants. You can smile, Christine. And the letter started out a little bit tougher. It got softened up a little bit, and it was the nature of a compromise. Some people wanted it to be tougher and other people thought it was too tough. There appears to have been other issues which I haven't verified for myself, so I'm not going to speak to them. But essentially the council and the comments of the public were largely in support of the Mid-Coast districts, and people appeared to understand exactly what was going on. It was heartening to see that.
I think Greg wrote a little bit about the issue afterwards on in a Co-Sided Buzz article.
Yep, he did.
Okay, so let's go to the CSDA report, California Small Districts Association. Rick?
They had the one meeting, but the email lists got messed up. So I didn't even know there was a meeting. So there wasn't much to report from the meeting.
Must be that season.
Yep.
Local Agency Formation Commission, or LAFCO report. Rick?
There was not a meeting since the last one when I reported, and it'll be another month before the next meeting.
All right, Christine, attorney's report.
President Boyd, no, I have no report this evening.
Okay, director's reports. Let's go to Rick. You had some comments.
Yeah, has to do with the Mid-Coast Council meeting and the lawsuit and the costs that everybody's been talking about. Half Moon Bay seems to be launching kind of a new campaign and new slogans. Their campaign is, we're not bad guys. All we're doing is protecting our ratepayers, period. I've worked here for decades in special districts, both here, Granada, at the county chapter, meetings. I can say to a person that every special district person I know would stand up, raise their hand and say, my primary job is to protect my ratepayers. Everybody else that I know, they do that by watching legal problems, avoiding them, keeping infrastructure intact, keeping costs down, and everything Montara and the other special districts here do. Half Moon Bay, in protecting their ratepayers, has a new approach. Their approach is, we want to break our 40-year contract and make our neighbors pay for a lot of our costs. That's a whole different approach. When they say ratepayers, that again is not everybody even in Half Moon Bay. Everybody in Miramar and Frenchman's Creek and North are in the Granada district. So Half Moon Bay is passing costs onto them also. I'm hoping with their new district elections coming up in a year or so that all of the people in Miramar and Frenchman's Creek remember this. This is a unique thing. Half Moon Bay has had a lot of financial issues going back to the Beechwood settlement. Problems with their sewer reserves. Recently, they couldn't meet the library payments, so the county stepped in and gave them $600,000 to cover their library loan. So their idea of solving their problem of finances is, let's get someone else to pay for our costs. And that's the whole point of the lawsuit right now. And I think our citizens are starting to learn that. And I think the community is starting to learn that. And I'm hoping that word just keeps getting out there to everybody. That's it.
Rick, what I would say to Half Moon Bay's new slogan is that the rule in the past has been you pay for what you use. And now Half Moon Bay is unfairly trying to settle its bad fiscal management by passing on its costs to Montara and Granada.
Yep.
And
its own citizens.
And its own citizens, and it's unfair.
I think there's a technical term for that. I think it's called passing the buck.
Literally.
Or passing the hat, and anyway, it's one of those. Maybe it's a combination.
Maybe in Half Moon Bay's case, it's any or all.
Jim or Peter, anything for director's comments? Director's reports? Okay. Let's move then to general manager's report.
Yeah, thank you. So in the as attachment to the written report, you actually have the newest version of the newsletter that's being inserted into the bills. In there, it is mentioned that we actually just published our newest customer confidence report, which ultimately lays out the water quality that we're serving or that we're producing in the district. So it is online. The link is in that newsletter. That newsletter will be sent out to everyone. We also sent this link to everyone that we actually have email on file. any customer, we have email on file. So just pointing everybody to this link and to our website where the newest CCR is in a prominent position right now, and encourage everyone to take a look. And also then final a reminder that I will be on vacation next week.
I think let me use the opportunity to mention something that is in the newsletter that's going out to everyone. The Community Service Academy, our first session is on July 28th. So save the date. This will be an opportunity for us to talk a bit about how things work, how people can stand to serve in elected positions, how filing works for candidates and requirements, and what the calendar looks like. If you don't know about these things, but you have a possible interest in stepping up to serve in your community, we would very much welcome you to come join us for this. It's kind of a new thing for us to try, but the Community Service Academy is something that we're really looking forward to, and looking forward to having you join us.
Thank you, Scott. We're also going to have an information item up at the next meeting, hopefully on the June 17 meeting, just basically stating what you're stating, but agendized so that it receives a little more attention. We're also going to send out a little postcard flyer notification to alert the community to this event.
All right. With that, we're going to take we're going to thank the public for joining us, and we're going to take a brief 5-minute recess. Plan to come back at, let's call it 9:08. And we've got some items for closed session, an existing litigation item, an anticipated litigation item, actually one significant exposure, one initiation of litigation, a conference with real property negotiators about the subject property 771 Rivera Road here in Montara. And we will report out any action taken in closed session if there is any. With that, thank you so much for joining us.
1 second, Scott. I think Christine is going to make, or Rick,
of course,
are going to make a statement.
I
Ultimately,
can't short circuit it by saying we're kicking Rick out, so he can't be here for the item on 771 Rivera Road because there's a conflict of interest due to proximity of the property. Can I short circuit it that way? As long as Christine's happy. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming. Let's come back at 9:09.
9:09.
Thank you.